It is 7 o'clock in a cold winter morning. Samara is standing in front of her house with her earphones on. She's quite excited, because it's their last day at her middle school before their winter break. She is waiting for the school bus with shivering hands. After a couple of minutes, the bus finally arrived. She looked at her watch and it is 5 minutes late. Usually, it arrives earlier or at the exact time, since other students need to be picked up. Samara didn't mind though, after all, if she is late, everyone else will be. As she is boarding the bus, she greeted the driver, but to her surprise, it's not Mr. Tanner but rather, a lean-looking man with a face mask on. The guy didn't respond, he just remained looking at the windshield. She just ignored him too, then went to her seat beside Anna, her classmate, who waved at her. They made a few more stops then went straight towards the highway. Samara browsed at her Instagram and TikTok accounts as they travel. She is a quite famous influencer in social media and has almost 1 million followers. When she grows up, she wants to be a social media star. She checked the time again and wondered why they haven't arrived at the school yet because it's almost 8 o'clock. Then she noticed that they are taking a different route which is unfamiliar to her. She asked the school bus attendant near her why they're going the wrong way, but he just stayed silent. She asked him again, but he acted as if he didn't hear her. Samara rolled her eyes then resumed checking her phone. After a few moments, she checked the time and it's 5 minutes after 8 o'clock. They are officially late for class. Samara, including the other middle schoolers, have become noisier. They kept telling the driver to drive faster because they're late for school. They are also asking where they are. The bus attendant became pissed off, and brought out a gun from his back pocket. Everyone screamed. Samara panicked. She looked around the bus and saw some of the students crying. She tried calling her mom but the attendant approached her, and made a gesture to give him the phone. She protested, but the moment the attendant pointed the gun at her, she slowly gave her phone with trembling hands, afraid to lose her life in an instant. The bus attendant took the backpack of Anna who was sitting beside Samara. He turned it upside down and shook it, until all of Anna's belongings are on the floor. The bus attendant approached the students one by one, and forced them to put their phones inside the bag while pointing the gun at them. The frightened students dropped their phones while sobbing. Then all of a sudden, Brendan, the tallest student among Samara's classmates, stood and shouted at the man saying, "My dad is a cop!" But just before he finished his sentence, the man fired a warning shot, just missing him at a hair's breadth. Brendan was stunned. He peed on his pants and sat down involuntarily. No one dared laugh because of their current predicament. After the bus attendant collected all the phones, he sat at the back of the bus beside Brendan, and put his arm around his shoulder. The kid was stupefied. Some of the students remained silent during the trip, while some are still teary-eyed. Samara tried to remain calm despite of what's happening. She looked at the attendant behind her, who was seated just about 5 seats away. She slowly and carefully took out her extra phone from her jacket. It's a good thing that she has her 2 phones with her, just like she always does when going to class. So when the teacher asked them to put their phones in the container on the teacher's table, she has another phone that she can use secretly during class. Samara checked her phone, and saw several call and text notifications from her parents. She read them and replied. Samara sighed a breath of relief and hoped that the police will locate them ASAP. After a few minutes, the school bus has come to a halt in front of an abandoned warehouse. Samara couldn't recognize the place, but she's certain that they are out of the city. There are empty and unoccupied buildings everywhere. The place looks deserted. The children were instructed to go inside the warehouse, and to group themselves according to gender. Samara and Anna stayed close together with the rest of the girls. Brendan and the boys stayed on the other side. Then a large bearded man appeared behind the kids and said in a malicious tone, "I guess we're going to have a good Christmas after all," then laughed manically. He inspected carefully the bodies of the girls, and complimented the bus driver and the attendant for having a good catch, because their patrons will definitely have a Merry Christmas. The girls were shocked upon hearing this. Samara couldn't understand what the man said, until she saw computers lined up at the faraway back of the warehouse. She has heard of this before in the news. Young girls are being forced to be internet sex workers in exchange of money. Samara felt fearful, disrespected and harassed with the idea. She can't imagine herself in front of a camera while being watched by hundreds, or even thousands of men. She's praying that help will arrive soon. The boys will be drug runners, drug mules or couriers. Since they are just kids, no one will ever suspect them. The bearded man said that if anyone will object or refuse, they will kill their families. And if they plan on running away, they will be shot in an instant. The children were terrified and cried even more. The driver and the attendant began dragging the young girls when they heard a siren. Samara's heart overflowed with hope because at last, help is here. True enough, 2 policemen came rushing inside the warehouse. The 3 men were alarmed and started to run. One of the policemen fired a shot upwards, which made the 3 men freeze from where they are standing. Then the officer shouted, "It's a good thing that we beat the other guys here first." The 3 men looked at the officers and laughed hard. The police officers have the phone of Samara's mom with the tracker still on. They searched Samara's pockets and found her cell phone. They smiled at her, then threw the phone on the ground and crashed it with their feet. Samara's hope was crashed with her phone. The officers reminded the 3 men that next time, they should also search the children thoroughly, because some of them might have extra phones. The bus attendant apologized, then called one of the officers boss. Samara's heart sank even more. The rest of the children cried heavily. The girls were brought in front of the computer cameras lined up. Samara was frozen as she looks directly at the camera's lens, with tears flowing slowly on her cheeks. Her dream was actualized way too early. But at least, she is about to live her aspiration. Her dream to become a social media star is finally unfolding.